stop trying to meditate. I don't mean stop meditating. I mean literally stop trying to meditate. There's a difference. And in this video, we're going to look at how to get meditation to work for you instead of you feeling like you have to always work in order to meditate, but then your experiences are really busy and uncomfortable and antsy. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you an acronym that you can use to remember what not to do when you sit down to meditate. All right, let's get into it. As I mentioned in my previous video about the 5 biggest misconceptions around meditation, there is no universal certification for becoming a meditation teacher, coach, or guide. So you have the blind leading the blind, which means a lot of meditation guides don't fully understand how the mind works in concert with the practice. And so they say things that are just kind of stock meditation instructions, like deepen your breath, or focus on the white light surrounding your body, or focus on your third eye center, or sit up straight, make sure your shoulders are aligned over your hips, cross your legs if it's comfortable to do so. Like these things that are just kind of normal, nobody ever questions them. And I'm not necessarily saying they're wrong in all situations. What I'm suggesting is that if you want meditation to be a desirable, delightful, and enjoyable experience, then you actually don't need to do all of those things. Those are remnants from Western asana yoga classes, right? Yoga is a word from India, which means to yoke something. And it's the union between your individuality and what they call your universality or your spirit. So in other words, your human aspect and your being aspect. And so yoga is a practice that gets you to become more and more self-realized. In other words, to remember that you have a spirit. Because when you live life just every day from the ground level perspective, it's very easy to forget that you are actually a spiritual being and not just a human being. And so what happened is there are multiple branches of yoga, but the one that we're most familiar with is the physical branch. And so what we've done in the West is we've made the physical branch of yoga almost the entire understanding of yoga. So in other words, if you're not doing a downward facing dog or a warrior one pose or a crow pose, then you're not really doing yoga. But yoga actually extends far beyond just the physical. It's a whole lifestyle, basically. And we're not going to get into all of that. But the point is, meditation is one of those branches of yoga. It's one of those aspects of uniting your individuality with your universality. And within meditation itself, there are multiple ways to approach the practice. I would even go so far as to say there are thousands of ways to approach the meditation practice, depending on how hard you want to work. Now, when you get former yoga teachers, such as myself, leading meditation without any sort of in-depth training in how the mind and the body operate in concert with meditation, then you end up getting people saying things like focus on your breath and sit up with your chakras aligned and all of that. What they're unknowingly doing is they are teaching you how to meditate like a monk. That's how monks typically meditate. But you're not a monk, right? I'm assuming if you're watching YouTube videos in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night, you're probably not living a monastic lifestyle somewhere in a cave. You're probably more of a regular person like me. And what I discovered in India, as well as, in different places in the West, is that there are styles of meditation or approaches to meditation that don't require you to do all the things that a lot of the yoga teachers try to convince you that you need to do in order for the meditation to work. For instance, you don't have to sit up straight in order for meditation to work. Who would have thought? You don't have to have your chakras aligned. You don't have to have your fingers together. You don't have to focus on your breath. You don't have to witness your thoughts like clouds in the sky. Again, I'm not saying that it's wrong to do those things. I'm saying you don't have to do them in order for the meditation to work as advertised. And the researcher who did the most in-depth studies around this idea of what they call the householder approach to meditation, the regular people approach, is Dr. Herbert Benson, who wrote a New York Times bestselling book called The Relaxation Response. It came out in the late 1960s or early 1970s. But he goes through and studies every aspect of the physiology and the biochemistry in the meditation while people are sitting relaxed, comfortable, while they are kind of loosely aware of what they're doing, but not really. And what he saw was that their bodies went into basically the opposite of the fight or flight reaction, which is a state of rest in the nervous system that is actually deeper than sleep in some cases. But the longest your body could sustain this state of rest was about 15 to 20 minutes. And he coined the phrase relaxation response, which a lot of meditation circles now refer to as the main byproduct of the meditation practice, but they don't approach it in the way that he researched. And he said, look, the criteria for experiencing the relaxation response is very simple. You have to have a relaxed body. You have to have a passive attitude. And he said, if you want to make up some word or phrase that brings you delight that you can use as a soft anchor during the practice, then you can do that too. And the combination of those three things, in addition to sitting for 15 or 20 minutes and no more, will help to elicit the relaxation response. So I wrote about this pretty in depth in my second book, which is called Bliss More: How to Succeed in Meditation Without Really Trying. And I used an acronym to illustrate what to do as well as what not to do. And I want to share that acronym with you so that you can remember what to do the next time you go to meditate. And hopefully that will help you have a more delightful experience. And by the way, that's what I meant when I said how to succeed in meditation without really trying. The way I gauge success is, do you enjoy what you're doing? If you don't enjoy the meditation, then I don't consider that to be a very successful practice. Granted, you may be doing it every day like clockwork, but if you're in the meditation like I used to be for many years, just hating it and waiting for the time to finish and not quite sure what I was doing and why my mind was so busy and why do they say this is a blissful experience? It doesn't feel anything resembling bliss. That's how I started my meditation practice for years. Just feeling like I was hitting my head against the wall, feeling like I was trying to reinvent the wheel. And so it wasn't until I met my meditation teacher in 2003 and learned how to elicit the relaxation response that I had a completely different quality of experience in meditation. And I genuinely started to enjoy the practice. And I realized that daily practice really is a byproduct of enjoyment. If you don't enjoy it, it's very easy to skip it because you'll just come up with excuses. Oh, I woke up late. Oh, I have to go, to a meeting, or oh, whatever the excuse is. Versus if you're a coffee drinker, you can have the busiest morning ever, but you will still find time to get that coffee. If you have a sweet tooth, you'll have the busiest morning ever. You'll still find time to get the pancakes. If you're addicted to drama, you'll still find time to fight with your spouse in the morning before you go to work. So whatever we find delightful, we will make the time to do that activity. And for me, once I worked with my teacher, meditation started to go into the delightful category. And I've been doing it like clockwork every day for the last 20 plus something years. Anyway, my point is I put all the principles in my book, Bliss More, which if you have a Spotify account, you can listen to Bliss More in their audiobook category for free. Otherwise, you can buy a copy on Amazon or whatever. But the analogy for what to do when you meditate is very simple, and I call it the easy approach to meditation. All right, so E stands for embrace, A stands for accept, S stands for surrender, Y stands for yield to. Okay, so what are we embracing? We're embracing the idea that your mind is not the enemy of your meditation. In other words, as you close your eyes and settle into your practice, what a lot of people do is they get ready to go to battle with their monkey mind. And instead, you want to look at your mind as a noble mind, not a monkey mind, but a noble mind. You want to see your mind as the ally of your experience, not the enemy of your experience. And then you want to let go of rigid attachment to what's supposed to happen during the experience. So that's what I mean by the process. You want to be process oriented as opposed to outcome oriented. And then that leads us to A, accept. So accept means you want to accept all thoughts, all noises, all sleep, and anything else that could be happening in and around your meditation as something that is supposed to happen during the practice. In other words, your attitude is that this is exactly what's supposed to be happening. In the same way that you accept oxygen when you're breathing, you don't resist oxygen, you accept it. You don't even realize you accept it, but you just naturally accept it. And so we want to have that same degree of acceptance when it comes to thoughts and falling asleep and hearing noises around us and things like that. Okay. Surrender means you may have an agenda around how you think the meditation should be going if you are embracing and accepting. And maybe it's going in that direction. Maybe it's not going in that direction. In any case, you want to surrender your agenda to the agenda of whatever's happening. And again, there's some overlap here. They're all kind of suggesting the same thing, as you can obviously see. But it takes labeling it in these various ways for us to really embody this idea of less is more. So yeah, if you have an agenda, if you think, okay, well, I've been doing the accepting and the embracing, but it's still not happening. Why isn't it happening? Surrender to whatever is happening. And then finally, we have yield to. And in the dictionary, yield to means to give way to. And that just applies to anything else that I didn't mention in and around the practice. Somebody bursting into the room and asking what you're doing, answer them. You don't have to pretend like you don't hear them. If you have to pee in the middle of practice, get up and go pee. Somebody comes to the door in the middle of practice, go answer the door and then come back and sit down. So just yield to whatever else is happening, again, as a part of the experience. And so this approach works provided that, again, you're sitting comfortably, so back supported. You don't want to be sitting with your back straight. You also don't want to be lying down. We'll get into that in another video, but you want to be sitting upright, back supported, and you don't want to be focusing on your breath or anything or trying to do anything during the practice. You're just practicing being during those 15 or 20 minutes or 10 minutes if you can only do 10 minutes. But that acronym EASY reminds you what to do when you're meditating.
Hey, if you've been knocking your head against the wall when it comes to daily meditation, falling off the wagon, getting back on, not quite sure if what you're doing is working, don't worry, I got you. For a limited time, I'm giving away my signature 7-day meditation kickstart for free to you, my spiritual perspective listeners. Plus, you'll get a free 2-week all-access pass to my entire Happiness Insiders online curriculum of challenges and masterclasses, which will provide you with a crystal clear roadmap for mastering your inner work. You'll also get support directly from me and accountability and a place to ask questions, and you can join me live for a meditation on each of your 2 free weeks. So with zero cost to you, you can get a daily meditation practice that you'll actually enjoy and look forward to doing for the rest of your life. And you'll have me to personally support you and hold you accountable. And after your 7-day meditation kickstart ends, you can start the 108-day meditation challenge and get even more support. And you can take as many other inner work challenges and masterclasses as you can fit into those 2 weeks. We have an unheard of 80% completion rate for our challenges, which is over 20 times higher than your average online course. So if you've been feeling stuck and inconsistent when it comes to your inner work practices, you will not find a better solution anywhere online. Go to thehappinessinsiders.com and let's get your meditation practice up and running today. That's thehappinessinsiders.com, and you can tell that nagging daily stress to kiss your ass. I'll put a link below in the description.
Now, I have another acronym that is helpful for remembering what not to do when you meditate, if you want to have those enjoyable, delightful experiences. Okay, that acronym is HARD, H-A-R-D. So we have easy and we have hard. So what makes meditation hard? H, holding the position. A, being austere. R, being rigid. D, doubting the process. Okay, holding the position. So what I mean by that is trying to sit up in a way that looks like you're meditating. You don't have to do that. And it also means if you start to get a little antsy or a little itchy during the meditation, you can feel free to move around. You can shift your position however you need in order to stay comfortable. So that's what the opposite of holding the position is. It's just continue to make yourself absolutely comfortable. A, being austere. So in the dictionary, austere means having a severe or strict approach to something. Okay. So instead of having a severe or strict approach to the meditation by trying to focus and contemplate and concentrate and evaluate and all of those things, witness your thoughts like clouds. You want to soften. You want to just soften everything a lot more and be a little more loosey-goosey with the whole thing. Okay. And so if you make up that little sound, that word or phrase that brings you delight, as I mentioned in the relaxation response approach, Dr. Benson talks about using that as a soft anchor, which means that when your mind wanders, not if your mind wanders, when your mind wanders, because it will wander, then you can use that as a phrase or word to return to, but softly, not severely, not strictly, but softly. Okay. And it's the combination of being soft and sitting comfortable that will start to help to elicit the effect that you ultimately want in the meditation. All right. Rigid. Rigid means being non-adaptable. The opposite of that is you want to become adaptable in your meditation practice, which means you adapt to whatever's happening in and around you. That again includes if you have to scratch, if you have to shift in your position. Yes, there's some overlap here. If you have to get up and go to answer the door, if you start falling asleep, right, you can just lie down and take a nap for the rest of your meditation. That's a way of adapting to the sleep. Okay. So in other words, no rigidity, no austerity, no holding anything. And then finally, we have doubting the process. So this whole process that I'm describing to you, if you've been around yoga circles for a while, you probably already have doubts. You're probably saying to yourself, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This is not how you meditate. I can't believe he's on here telling people to meditate this way. That's fine. You don't have to try it. But if you're tired of feeling frustrated, and if you're tired of feeling like your mind is like a drunk monkey, and you feel inspired to or curious about this approach, then try it out. And while you're trying it out to get the full effect, don't doubt the process. Just go all in on the process. Look, you already know what it's like to do the other approach. You know what kind of results that will yield. Busy mind, you feeling frustrated, you not wanting to meditate, but pretending like you are okay with all of it. I used to do that. I'm telling you, I used to lead these meditations. And inside, I was like, nothing's happening. This is ridiculous. I can't believe they even think I know what I'm talking about. So I don't have to do that anymore because now I've been having the actual experience, and this is what I'm describing to you. So if you want to have the actual experience, then trust the process and just understand that a part of the process is a cumulative effect. So it's not going to get all worked out in one meditation that you from a YouTube video. Get the book. If you read the book and you like that and you have some better experiences, find a teacher like I did and learn how to do this stuff in person. I recommend finding a Vedic meditation teacher. That was what my teacher was teaching when I first learned all of this. All they do is they talk about the principles, and then you can ask them questions. And the combination of that is going to help you become more and more self-sufficient. And then next thing you know, meditation for you is in the same category as things that you already like and enjoy, and you don't ever have to twist your arm again to find time to sit down and meditate. Okay, 10 to 15 minutes is all you need. First thing in the morning, when you wake up, just slide up against your headboard and do your meditation like that. And like I said, for more information, you can check out my book, Bliss More, How to Succeed in Meditation Without Really Trying. You can also sign up for my free 30-day inner work kickstart, where I review these principles in more detail. I'll pin a link to the kickstart in the comments below. And if you like this video, click here and you can see the video that I did before about the 5 biggest misconceptions about meditation. Or you can click here and you can get a playlist of all of the spiritual perspective videos. All right, see you in the next one.